So, hello everyone. Welcome to the March 24th meeting of the Finance Committee in keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which was shockingly almost six years ago. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board/commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. ECAT's in the building. We love ECAT. Thank you for being here, ECAT. I am going to run down a list of all of you lovely people as soon as I remembered to get my notebook out, and we will do a voice vote to prove that we have quorum and that we are all wonderful humans. So I'm just going to go down the list of who I see in my current path. Diaz.
Diaz present.
Jenkins.
Jenkins present.
Balin.
Balin present.
Petro.
Petro.
And Olson.
Olson present.
And Barrowman.
Barrowman present.
See, you're already a natural. You got it. This is it. The whole gig. And I am here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 9, thus providing quorum. We are good to go. All right. So tonight, everyone, we do have warrant articles, discussion and deliberation. We do have several meeting minutes that I sent out ahead of time, and then our typical public comments and whatnot. The stack ranking we're going to go through is one other addendum. I watched the select board meeting last night. There was the preliminary fiscal budget change memorandum, which came out. Wendy, I believe, sent it to everybody on this call earlier. Sean and Wendy, how do you want to go through these pieces? I did a quick pass on the warrant articles. Not all of them are voting ready. I don't know if you guys have a punch list of what currently is.
Yeah, Wendy and I met earlier today and went through. So we could just roll through if you want. I could just share my screen and we could have the warrant, and we can go article by article, and we'll let you know what's ready and what's not ready, and we'll give you more details.
This is already more engagement than Connor used to do. That Westwood fleeing punk. So yeah, this is fantastic. Let's go.
I'm gonna let him know tomorrow. I'm gonna see him tomorrow, so I'll let him know.
I'm gonna text him this video right afterwards, so he knows that I said that about him. So it's even better.
Exactly.
Go for it. You have the floor.
Let me. And as part of this, Article 6 is the operating budget, and I'm just gonna go through the presentation. So unfortunately, Pat, you'll have to hear this all over again. I'm just gonna give the presentation. It's relatively short, but it'll give you a good sense of where we're at.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Screen is shared. Can you see it?
Yep, you're up.
Yep.
Okay, because I have an oddly large, it's like a 1.5 screen, so I just want to make sure you can see it properly.
Oh, Chris is here. Oh, he did come in. Hold on. Let me promote Chris. He made it. Chris is coming in, and you can have the floor in the meantime.
Okay. So we'll start with Article 1. We'll toggle between Wendy and I as we go down the warrant, but Article 1 is a routine article that we have every year, acceptance of annual reports. There's a space for the Finance Committee to make a recommendation. You're welcome to. It's just the typical report, that annual town report that we submit every year and have to produce ahead of town meeting. It's pretty routine, and it's going to be posted once it's finished up. Our office sends it out ahead of town meeting, and this year it's going to be predominantly digital. We'll have a couple of copies printed, but for the most part, the community can access it through our documents on demand portal.
Move to recommend to Petro.
I was just going to say, this is a pretty standard one. We have a recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Arthur?
That was me, yeah.
Alrighty. Let's go down the list here. And Chris, welcome. I think you're in here, right? Diaz.
Diaz present.
No, this is a yes or no for the acceptance of Article 1. Sorry.
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Jenkins, yes.
Balin?
Balin, aye.
I can fancy. DePietro?
Yes.
Olson?
Olson, yes.
Barman?
Barrowman, yes.
Nailed it. I am a yes. And Percio?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Article 1 is recommended.
Turn it over to Wendy for Article 2.
So Article 2 is the authorization for the revolving accounts. We do this every year, but this year we have two new ones that we want to also add. And we would add these into the bylaws. So the first one is the fire facility usage revolving fund. So it'd be building usage fees received in connection with the use of fire station facilities. In particular, it would be the money that they get from Brewster Ambulance for the Depot Street Station. That will be used to help with utilities and upkeep of the building and other like fire facilities. So we're looking to add that in. We're looking to start with just a limit of $75,000. I don't think that's exactly how much they're going to get in, but we're just setting it at an even $75,000 to start. The next one is the police body-worn camera and public records revolving fund. This would just be any fees that are received in connection with public records requests. They are predominantly for the body-worn cameras, but any other public records requests would also be deposited into this fund, and it could be used for administrative costs to help produce those records. They're spending an increasing number of time responding to these records requests. Every time there's a car accident, the insurance companies, you know, they want the camera footage, and it takes a lot of time for staff to go through those videos and look for anything that potentially needs to be redacted. So right now the fees aren't very much at all. I think we're maybe like $1,000, but as these requests increase, the fees will, you anticipate will increase as well. So we're looking to add that into the account for some, you know, potentially it'd be mostly like overtime to help produce these records. And we're looking at a limit of like $5,000.
Okay. So just one question on that. So this is just to make sure I'm understanding, because I get the general, but the only two new are the fire facility rental, which is I guess the only question I have is that it's a max of 75,000, or if anything over 75,000 just goes back to the general fund. If, God willing, we have a ton of needs for rental revolving, that the 75,000 is the spending limit or the actual total limit?
That's a spending limit. So, okay. Right. So you can only spend what you have in the fund. So if you have less than 75,000, you can't spend 75,000. Any balance will just carry over to the next year. So over time, these balances could accumulate.
Right.
If you don't spend all of it. Got it. So that's why sometimes the limits might be a little bit greater than what you would take in a year.
But if they did, if let's say, we'll use the easy one because I'm not great with math. If the police camera account rolls over 3 times and you have $15,000 in the account, the spending limit is still the $5K.
It's still the 5. You can get approval to raise the cap during the year if you had an expense that you wanted to charge off to that fund. Otherwise, you just wait to the next annual town meeting and increase the limit. And
this is what we went through with the funding for the, I can't remember the name of the fund, but it's the fire engine fund spending.
Yeah, the
2.5 million, which is worth
million.
highlighting as well, is that we included, that's typically $50,000, but this year, instead of having to come back and have the finance committee and select board vote again in separate meetings to lift the cap again mid-year, we're just going to go through the town meeting process and have it be at 2.5 million until we do have the new Quint fire ladder truck on board. So you'll notice that this is different, but it'll typically, and it's much higher than the rest of them, but that's because it's just for that specific purpose, and that will in future years go back down to $50,000.
Last question for me: are there any other line item funds that have increased outside of that? Because that was my other question. I knew the 2.5 was part of that, but is there anything else that's gone up?
Other than that, everything else is the same as last year.
Okay. Is there anything else on your side you wanted to share before I open it up to our group for questions?
That's it.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Hit it.
I do have a question. Thank you, Wendy. Is there an opening balance? Will you be transferring from the general fund into these new funds that you're creating to start off, or we're just waiting until fees are collected?
Nope. So starting effective July 1st, any revenues received in connection with these revolving funds would just be deposited into those funds. So there wouldn't be any transfer from the general fund
Okay.
of any other revenues that we've already accumulated.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Anybody else?
Yeah, Wendy or Sean, just for the public records request, isn't there a limit? I thought there was a state law on a limit on what we can charge as far as public record requests.
Yes, there is a limit. That's which is probably why we don't receive a lot of money for that. So it's, I think it's like after the first 2 hours, like the first 2 hours have to be free. And I think the most you can charge is like $25 an hour. But some of this footage, depending on how many cameras there were, or the time length, they have to actually sit through that footage. So the time does add up.
Second.
What did you say? Mike, did you second something? It wasn't.
I hit the unmute too quickly as I finished saying, I'll bring that to you in a second.
Oh, okay. I was like, you just seconded something that does not have a vote.
The teacher wanted his second emotion so badly, he seconded
I
one
was,
that
I was
didn't
jumping.
exist.
I did have a question though.
Go for it.
Sorry, Robert, you get everything you wanted answered?
I did.
Before I shouted second into the meeting. Wendy, do these accounts have any impact to how we calculate free cash flow? In other words, if money comes in to these accounts, I'm presuming therefore not hit the free cash flow in effect. I already regret thinking of the word, but sequestering the money from the general fund.
Yeah, no, these don't have any impact on free cash. The body worn camera, I mean, that's a revenue we do collect, but right now it's only like $1,000. So
Yeah.
you know,
I know.
and
I
the
wasn't
other one
expecting it
is,
to be much, but
yeah, the other one, it would be a new source. So
okay. Just
and they're kept
curious.
separate from the general fund, so you know, they wouldn't impact free cash going forward.
Cool.
Anybody else? Mike, if you're
Motion to recommend to Petro.
Second.
say. Woo. All right, Diaz,
Yes. Yes.
Jenkins,
Jenkins, yes.
Phelan,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Barman.
Barman, yes.
I am a yes, and Percio.
Yes.
Alrighty. On to 3. We're cruising here, guys.
Article 3 is another routine article for elected officials' compensation. We have to, by law, set the amounts each year. They haven't changed in a really long time. The Select Board, Board of Health, Board of Assessors, and the Moderator. And again, this is a routine article that we take up every year.
Only question I have is that yet again, someone has forgotten to put FinCom on here. I just want to make that clear for the record, and that just want to voice my displeasure with that once more, because that $1,800 a year, I mean, gravy train, right? Any other questions from the FinCom before I just run this off the rails completely?
I do have a question, as I do every year. Is there a reason why we haven't at least attempted to discuss probably raising
For FinCom? Yeah, amen.
not for FinCom, the Select Board or any of these guys here, right? 1,800, 1,000, 1,800, 100. I mean, it's been that for a very long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't, in the 3 years that I've been here, that's never come up in discussion, but doesn't mean that it can't in the future.
Yeah, nobody's really brought it up.
Yeah, absolutely no disrespect to anybody who's paid in those positions. It's just not a great time to bring that up. It's my assessment.
It's never a good time, but it needs some consideration.
Any other questions on this hot button issue of $1,800 a year? Seeing none.
Motion to recommend to Petro.
Second, Jenkins.
Thank you. Diaz.
Yes. Yes.
Jenkins.
Jenkins, yes.
Phelan.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Olson.
Olson, yes.
Barman.
Barman, yes.
I am a yes, and Percio. Okay. Can you imagine if Barman just comes off and he's like, no, like it just throws a wrench right into the middle of this. To be fair, Matt, just so you know, a lot of these sort of standard ones, yes, they're pretty buttoned up and boilerplate, but occasionally we get spicy. So on to the next one, which is the spiciest of all the. Here we go. Number 4, everyone's favorite. Payment of bills from a prior fiscal year. Do we have anything, guys?
We actually do. I know
No
usually we never
way.
have anything.
Come on, really?
Yeah, and it's
Get
kind of
outta
a lot.
Really good for Matt's first meeting.
Oh, I didn't even see it. I didn't see it in the explanation. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
All
I didn't
right.
want to hard code it into the warrant
Yeah.
article because if something else came in, we'd have to make a motion to amend the article or so. I just put it in the explanation. So yeah, we had two prior year bills from Weston and Sampson. I'm not really sure why the bills never got paid. I will say Weston and Sampson tends to kind of not necessarily submit their invoices on a timely basis. But
Public records.
so many of our invoices get emailed now that
Yeah.
it's really easy, and print them out and it is easy to overlook some as well. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but at the end of the day, it's 2 invoices. One is from February 2025 for $10,036. The other one is from October 2024, $27,148.42. And so that's the total of the $37,184. These would have come out of the sewer enterprise fund, and there would have been sufficient funds to pay that out of the budget last year had we gotten it in time.
Okay.
So we would be looking to fund this from sewer surplus.
Got it. It's hilarious because I literally saw Article 4 and was like, I know the explanation for this one, and just scrolled on by and didn't even see that it was in there. What were the 2 invoices for specifically? Was it just standard sewer enterprise bills that were coming through from them?
So it's Northeastern Village wastewater treatment facilities operation and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's like reimbursable expenses too, and those do tend to come through later because we have like a monthly fee that we pay them, and then they will bill us for costs that they've incurred.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So that's what. Yeah, it's just a lot of like reimbursable kind of expenses, and I will.
Sure.
I'll scan this and I can send this off to the committee so you can see it.
Sure. Does anyone have any other questions on? I mean, it's prior fiscal year bills. I don't think we're going to get too critical on it, but any other questions on it?
No, just for the sake of being thorough, these were expected and just a question of timeliness of the invoice.
Yes, yeah. If these had been put through for payment, I mean, they would have just gone through without question.
Okay, and it's all coming. It's nothing's hitting the general fund. It's all hitting the sewer enterprise fund.
Sewer enterprise. Yep.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Motion to recommend.
Oh.
So,
Second to Petro.
Thought I beat you.
that was a technical. I mean, to be fair, he did yell second an hour ago, so I guess he was ahead of it. Diaz.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Fallon.
Yes.
There you are. Petro.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Barman.
Barman, yes.
I am a yes, and Percio.
Yes.
Thank you, sirs. And Shireen. All right. Article 5. Is there anything for Article 5, or are we jumping right to 6?
We're not ready for Article 5 yet.
Yeah,
There will definitely be some budgets to supplement, in particular the solid waste and recycling budget. We will be looking to supplement that more so, in particular, not on the spending side, but because we are going to be discontinuing the trash program, the revenue that we're taking in, we're probably not going to meet like a revenue estimate, but we have enough money in surplus to cover that shortfall. So we would just appropriate money added to the budget from surplus, and that would effectively prevent a revenue deficit from occurring like at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so when we come back for whatever the second meeting is, we'll whenever you guys have that and whatever else is outstanding, we'll just cover that. So then we're on to 6, which means it's presentation time, I believe, or is that capital?
Time. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm just going to switch
both
the screens.
Yeah,
I'm
go for
sure.
it.
All right, so this presentation was given, you can see at the moment, right? I haven't gone into presentation mode, but you can see it okay? I'd assume yes.
Looks good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're up.
Okay, so again, this is the presentation that I presented to the select board last night on the first of what is likely 2 budget change memos. This budget change memo reflects the updated fiscal conditions and policy decisions that are impacting the FY27 operating budget. The town continues to experience significant structural pressures driven by fixed costs, including employee benefits, insurance, contractual obligations, while recurring revenue growth, as we all know, remains constrained by Proposition 2.5 levy limits and minimal growth in state aid. This memo submitted to you outlines the changes to the preliminary operating budget that our former town administrator Connor had presented to the select board on January 12th. And it includes updates to our projected revenues, adjustments to our proposed expenditures, and updated numbers related to our assessments based on the governor's proposed budget that came out recently. As you all know, the select board, or may know, the select board voted on March 9th to place 2 questions on the annual town election for an operating override. The main focus of the presentation will be on the non-override budget, assuming that neither of the questions are approved by voters in the April 28th election. But any questions that do get approved at that election will be added into the budget after the election, but before town meeting. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a future slide, because it is still relevant to this process. There are a number of adjustments to our revenue and expenses that have played out over the past few months since the preliminary budget was issued. We are able to eliminate the previously projected preliminary deficit presented at about $430,000, and that's resulting in a balanced budget for the first time in a very long time without the use of one-time money, either from free cash or stabilization. Over the next few slides, we'll outline those adjustments, and we'll start with revenue. And with that, I'll turn it over to Wendy.
So under the taxation category, we're going to reduce the taxation raised for the debt exclusion by $79,841. That's a difference between the estimated and actual debt service related to the recent bond and note issue that was approved by the select board on January 26th. State aid has been revised downward. Well, overall state aid has a net increase of like 12,000, but in particular, the Chapter 70 category is going down based on the governor's budget. So we had estimated $100 per student in minimum aid. The governor is proposing $75. This fiscal year, we're getting $150 per student. So she's basically cut that in half. You know, we estimated 100, but we need to make the adjustment to the governor's budget. Hopefully through further iterations of the budget, that number will increase. But we're just adjusting to that now. In addition, there were several other categories in the state aid. You got unrestricted general government aid. That's like the second biggest category in state aid. That went up slightly by $8,000. The charter school reimbursement did increase by a lot, but on the flip side, on the assessment end of that, that also went up. And the reimbursement is never greater than what the assessment is, or even close to equal to that. So overall, when you net all of this together, state aid goes up $12,528, but on the expense side will be offset by an increase in state assessments by $58,407. The other thing that we adjusted was when we factored everything in, we kind of felt like local receipts were maybe, a little bit high on the estimates, so we did try to adjust those downward in a couple of areas. And when you move ambulance receipts out of the mix, comparing it to the previous year, it still reflects budget growth of 6.34% over fiscal 26 estimates. And we adjusted licenses and permits in that category, and the meals tax. And then other financing sources and reserves. We had kind of plugged in a number in this area to cover what we had projected was going to be an offset to school non-exempt debt, which was going to be mostly related to the security project. But you know, when all the numbers came in, we didn't end up needing that money, so we're gonna take that out of service, because overall debt service, when you net town and school together, ended up going down slightly. So we won't need that money, so we took that out. And that is it on the revenue end.
And on the expense side, I'll just run through by category. For debt and interest, total debt service, as Wendy was just talking about, has been reduced by $166,571 through a combination of adjustments to both exempt and non-exempt debt. We were able to make these reductions following the issuance of a large issuance of bonds that the select board voted on their January 26th meeting, which a lot of that was for the municipal building project and included lower than anticipated interest. For benefits and health insurance, that was one of the biggest unknowns, and one of the things that a lot of municipalities across the state are contending with. And we thankfully were able to decrease our projection by $448,684 from our preliminary estimates. Based on preliminary projections from the GIC, the Group Insurance Commission, we assumed a 9.1% increase, but following the GIC's vote to finalize rates on March 5th, our rates came in lower, with active plans at 8% and Medicare plans at 5.4%. On the property liability and workers' comp insurance, premiums from Maya, which is our insurer, also were finalized at rates below projection, allowing for an additional $126,202 of decrease, which can be credited to the town's favorable loss ratio. In terms of regional education, both our assessment for Southeastern Regional and Bristol Aggie went down by a total of $170,402, which can be attributed to lower enrollment of Easton students at both schools. Our state and county assessment, which are based on the governor's proposed budget, on the other hand, has increased by about $58,000, and that includes assessments like OCPC, which is our regional planning agency, Old Colony Planning Council, the Mosquito Control Project, the MBTA assessment. Those types of assessments are what come in from the state and county. And then the largest part of our budget is the Easton Public Schools, and they have submitted their budget to us after the school committee's public hearing on March 12th and subsequent vote on March 16th, with a total budget of $50,096,817, which represents a 2.8% decrease from fiscal year 2026. Continuing on, we have updated numbers on some of the town's departmental operating budgets, resulting in adjustments of $94,751, which includes restoring the Finance Committee's reserve fund balance to its customary $100,000. Some contractual adjustments for the select board related to the transition in the town administrator's office. Our rate for town council has gone up a little bit, and it's increased for the first time in a long time, actually. And then we have some collective bargaining and personnel reallocations within the DPW following the select board's ratification of a 1-year extension with the SPIA DPW unit. In terms of enterprise funds, the discontinuation of townwide municipal solid waste and recycling services resulted in a $2,071,877 decrease in both revenue and expenditures. An appropriation of $100,000 from surplus is proposed to address recycling card disposal and any other residual costs related to in FY27 related to the discontinuance of the trash program. And then just for note, a modest increase in our water enterprise fund of about $1,500. The combined effect of all the revenue and expenditure adjustments of about 430,000 or of $430,626 fully offsets the preliminary deficit and results in a balanced budget. Of note, no free cash or stabilization funds are used for the first time in years. The budget remains structurally balanced for this fiscal year, but I will say that that doesn't mean we won't face challenges in subsequent fiscal years. And staffing and service levels remain consistent with the non-override framework previously presented to you by Connor back in January. As we look towards the next couple of months, we still have some ground to cover to refine the budget before we go to town meeting. We're waiting on proposals from the House and Senate for the state's budget, which I know conversations are already currently underway on Beacon Hill. Any additional state aid that we may receive will likely go towards offsetting our snow and ice deficit, which, as you all know, we've had a very difficult winter, and that snow and ice deficit is around $470,000. We have a great relationship with our state legislative delegation, and we have leveraged those open lines of communication to advocate for Easton's funding priorities in the state's FY27 budget. That's a recurring comment that is made is, have we been advocating to our state legislators to make sure our priorities are known? And we in fact have. Both Dottie, our chair of the select board, and I penned a letter to legislators recently outlining these priorities, which includes increasing for UGA, the very amazingly named acronym, Unrestricted General Government Aid, maintaining minimum aid at $150 per pupil. Wendy was talking about that a little bit earlier, and opposing the RMB marking process, which is a mechanism that they're proposing to make changes to where it currently is a tool that we can use to encourage payment of delinquent motor vehicle excise tax bills. And then in terms of collective bargaining, we do still have 5 unsettled union contracts that are up as of June 30th of this year that we will be negotiating once our new town administrator joins us. I'm not sure how far we'll get before town meeting, but we have budgeted funds for collective bargaining reserves in anticipation of funding those contracts. And the operating override. As I mentioned, although tonight's presentation was focused on the non-override budget, it is important to mention that another outstanding factor, and that is the override. At the select board's March 9th meeting, they voted to place 2 questions on the annual town election ballot. One for $1,015,000 to hire additional police officers, firefighters, and to be specific, it's 5 police officers, 4 firefighters, associated benefits for those employees, and some other funds for police and fire training expenses. That's question 1. Question 2 is for public works. $700,000 for funding for roadway and sidewalk improvements, as well as 2 full-time DPW special equipment operator positions and associated employee benefits. This will be presented to the public, and this comes after feedback that we've received over the past year. Last year, it was said that the override amount was too much and there wasn't enough choice, and we have made changes based on that feedback where it is $5 million less, and there is choice with very specific requests in each question. And this is what's called a menu style of override. The questions are distinct from each other, and as you can see, there are very specific requests within each of them. And only the questions that receive the majority vote will move forward. So it's possible that none of them will make it, one might make it, or both of them could make it. So you could have a scenario where public safety passes, but public works doesn't. And whatever is passed by voters will be included in the budget that is presented to town meeting. Last year, you might remember, town meeting went first. We had dueling budgets. There was the non-override budget, there was the override contingent budget, and then afterwards was the ballot question. We're now doing it in the reverse order. So we'll know more clearly, and there'll be one clear budget that's presented at town meeting by our new town administrator. The voter approval process, like I said, there's 2 points in time for the override to go into effect. I mentioned that we did it in reverse order. April 28th is going to be the ballot election. This the ballot portion of the process just is a vote for voters to permanently increase the town's levy limit by a specific dollar amount. Like I said, if it passes by a majority vote, the levy limit increases, but that doesn't mean that money has been spent at that point, which is why there is step 2, town meeting on May 18th. It's always the third Monday in May. Voters will then vote to appropriate any additional funds that are approved by voters at the ballot. And so we're hoping that this might make it a little bit clearer and a little less confusing for folks as they head into town meeting. In conclusion, the adjustments presented here tonight allow the budget to remain balanced or just too balanced. But as I mentioned earlier, the town's underlying structural challenges remain. Our departments continue to operate with inadequate staffing levels, and the non-override budget does not restore services eliminated during FY26 in light of that failed override. The budget reflects the town's prudent financial management and improved cost certainty, but long-term pressures, including skyrocketing healthcare costs, pension assessments, OPEB liabilities, and the fact that we are an under-resourced organization are long-term pressures on both town and school operations. The proposed operating override, if approved, would give us some breathing room and bring back some of the crucial positions cut in recent years and would reduce risks of cuts in future years. But I just want to be clear that this would not, this would just be a stabilizing effect. The 3 departments that you see that I mentioned in the past, the 2 questions, number 1 and 2, police, fire, and DPW, it would not restore them to where they should be to operate their departments in a community of our size. So I just want to note that the extra money that's coming in will not bring them back. They really should have additional, but we are taking into account the feedback that we received from the public about being modest in our request. Looking ahead, a couple of dates that I just want to flag for you all. We'll all see each other in a couple of weeks at the standard Select Board Finance Committee joint budget hearings, where you'll hear from our departments on their individual budgets. We've actually coupled them the same way that we had done that last year, where the larger departments will have their own presentations. So will the library, but the smaller general government departments will all run through those on my own. And all of our department heads will be there for you to ask questions should they arise. Again, April 28th, annual town election, where voters will choose between the 2 ballot questions as well as candidates for local election. We're pairing that with annual town election to hopefully make it a little bit clearer and easier for people as opposed to having the separate election like we did last year. And then May 18th is annual town meeting, where we'll have voters vote on the budget. To get caught up to speed for anyone that might be watching at home or for any of you on the Finance Committee, we have all this information that was discussed tonight and more. We have a budget webpage at easton.ma.us/budget. We have all of our specific override information on its own separate page, which is also referenced on the budget page, and that's easton.ma.us/override. And then details about town meeting is at easton.ma.us/town meeting. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and Wendy and I will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Usual rules apply. Who is up for questions? Feel free to come off mute and throw it out there.
A lot of information. Thank you guys for putting all that together. It's a lot of information. Can I just go back just to page 5 when we had the other local adjustments growth at 6.4%?
Yep. Let me pull that back up. Glad I put these slides up with numbers on them. There we go. Okay.
Yep. Just on the other financing sources, I think it showed 6.34 local receipts. What does that represent? I know, Wendy, you had mentioned meal tax. Were there any other, was that an increase in tax, or I'm not sure?
No, I actually brought it down. We were carrying meals tax at like 565,000. I just adjusted that one down to 560. The amount of money that we took in fiscal 25 was like 566,000, but the first couple of quarters have come in like a little bit lower. So I just wanted to, bring that down just a little bit. And then the other area was licenses and permits. So we were carrying $1,023,750. I just brought that down to $1 million. We originally, I think when we had started with a preliminary budget, I think we just plunked like 5% on top of everything. And then when we took the ambulance revenue out of the mix, because that really came in significantly over budget. When we took that out, the other categories just felt like maybe they were pushed a little too hard. So for licenses and permits, like we took in 989,000 in fiscal 25. So we took in less than $1 million. They're trending, pretty decent this year. It's hard when you predict your local receipts because you're basically looking back at your actuals from the previous fiscal year while you're in the year and looking for next year. By the time we go to set the tax rate, Department of Revenue wants to make sure that your estimates are not greater than your actuals for the previous year. So we kind of have to hedge our bets and look at, okay, what are we taking in 25? Do we think, how do we think we're going to do at the end of 26? So, where we had $1,023,023 and we only took in 989, I just wanted to bring that down. So brought that down to $1 million. We go to set the tax rate. Sometimes we might adjust these, tweak these a little bit more. It's like one of the few areas where we have some wiggle room when we do go set the tax rate. But, overall at a 6.34% increase over fiscal 26 estimates, I think we're okay in that area at this point.
Okay. Just discontinuation of the town's municipal tax trash collection. Did that have a big impact as well in savings, the discontinuation of that?
That was in an enterprise fund, so it was separate from the general fund operating budget.
Okay. So we didn't realize any savings from discontinuing that?
We anticipate that when all is said and done, there'll probably be a residual amount left over in that enterprise fund, but when that ceases and we will close that out, that would close out to the general fund.
Okay.
But we anticipate that will be a positive number.
Okay, excellent. And then just on page 11, are those the only two override questions?
Correct.
Yes.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Great questions.
I know for both questions, the idea is to reduce the risk of potential budget cuts down the road. I know when we were going through overrides last year, the idea was to kind of have some saving power. Do we have like any expectation? Like what is kind of like the long-term plan if the overrides are allowed in terms of how what kind of stability is it going to bring to these departments?
I will tell you that when we calculated these amounts, we were coming up with these amounts, we were kind of looking at not just like what would it cost to hire this staff today, but what would it cost over the next several years. So we built that in there so that we would have some of that longevity, and we even put some increase factors on what we estimated for benefits as well.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I'll jump in. Assuming that all the chips fall where they may in this budget, where will that leave the stabilization fund and free cash balances?
Good question.
So stabilization right now.
Free cash is at 1.1 million.
That's just what was the 1.1 is what's unspent off of the certification from July 1st. So,
right.
That number will be recalculated. Right now we've got like 5.8 million in the stabilization fund.
What'll be the net of it? I think is what Chris is driving at. What'll be, assuming we go with this budget and it works out as it is, what's the expected impact to stabilization? Are we drawing it down at all? Do we expect it
No,
to?
there's no, we're not taking any money out of stabilization. We're not
Yeah.
proposing that.
Would
I
we
don't,
reasonably expect to refund any according to the best practices we've been using the past couple of years?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was
Yeah.
looking at something.
Sorry, I think I slurred it too. Would we grow the stabilization fund, or well, more precisely, would we expect to further fund the stabilization fund according to the, what was it, one quarter?
Oh, okay, yeah, towards financial management principles.
Yeah.
I not until like a fall town meeting. There's no plan to increase those balances at the annual town meeting. But certainly, once free cash is recertified, we're gonna want to transfer like a quarter of that balance into stabilization. We still want to keep with that practice.
Right. Chris, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought that's what you were asking.
It's an offshoot of my question. So if this budget is underspent, is there a commitment to raise stabilization in free cash, or are there other needs that any underspending of this budget would go to?
So underspending of fiscal 27.
Yeah.
We won't know. I mean, we won't know that until the end of the fiscal year.
Well, you probably know it. I mean, you're most of the way through fiscal 26 now, right? And you know if there's extra cash, right?
Yeah, I mean the budgets are really tight. It's all you never really know until like you're really at the end in terms of like, where departments are going to land, if they're going to turn back any money. Um, and it can be hard even like right now to predict where things are going to land. Like with motor vehicle excise, for instance, that's one of our biggest local receipt categories, but we don't even send out the first billing until like the end of January, early February, and then successive billing files come down from the registry, and we send those out and take those in. So that's like one of the harder areas to predict. Our interest income is still pretty strong, so that's been doing pretty well. Meals tax is really kind of like leveled off, so I don't see any huge increases. In fact, some of those were a little bit lower than the previous year.
What would a healthy combined free cash flow and stabilization fund for our town size budget look like? Like what would we aspire for it to be?
I mean, I honestly, I mean, I'd love to see like what 10% of the budget. I mean, that's like $10 million. So we're
That's what I actually thought the answer was. But
yeah.
Is there a path to getting there?
We contribute back to the stabilization fund usually every fall. So we try to progressively chip away and that's why we're so proud of this year's budget and being able to prevent having to use any of our stabilization funds, so we don't need to chip into it like we typically do. And so when we go to the fall, we likely will be able to contribute back, and that's why that policy is in place to ensure that we are contributing back to our rainy day funds and make sure that we can get closer to a healthy balance. And during the time that Connor was town administrator, from 2017 until just this past year, he went from 1 million up to 7 million. And
Right.
so, and then we unfortunately had to chip away at it a little bit last year. But that's not the preferred practice. We're trying to get away from using one-time funds where possible.
Right.
Question: is there any known financial cliff of any sort that is on the horizon for 2028 that we could reasonably assume is going to require us to tap into these reserve funds in the future?
Like I said, the biggest.
We had a recession.
Yeah. If there's some sort of like and I guess that even a recession wouldn't really be able to truly be able to, like, if there's some sort of global conflict that really escalates that might drive some. I mean, yeah, it's tough to really plan 100% for it. Something that a lot of folks are saying, oh, how come you didn't plan for healthcare? no one was expecting healthcare to go up as much as it's gone up over the past couple of years. And honestly, it's really crippled some of my friends that work in other communities have gotten it way worse than we've gotten it. So, I think one of my friends up on the North Shore, their health insurance budget went up 19% in 1 year, which is insane. And so it's really become an issue. And that's why we're advocating to our state legislators, because state aid is lagging, health insurance is rising, inflationary costs are crippling everyone. It's just been a really difficult landscape. And things that we thought were pretty stable have just really jumped up really quickly.
We knew a couple of years ago, Connor waved the flag. He said COVID money's going to go away, right?
Exactly.
We've known that we were headed for a deficit and an override request for a couple of years now.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm asking, do we know that there's another one coming, and do we need to boost those reserves up to account for it?
I don't see anything huge like there was at the end of COVID. Certainly a recession could lead to the state, reneging on their promise to send us the money that they voted, which is what happened in 2008. Mid-year they cut our budget, and then it took state aid a very, very, very long time to even get back to those dollars, in terms of actual dollars, let alone looking at the impact of inflation.
Have we come back to the same numbers that we were in pre-COVID?
I don't think we've come back to the unrestricted chapter 7.
We're still under.
I thought we hit the nominal number, but not the inflation adjusted number.
Oh yeah,
I think that's accurate, Mike.
Yeah.
Chris,
Mike
those are good
DePietro,
questions.
one right answer. Nice job.
Every
Sorry, go ahead, Robert. I just
move
need
on.
to make fun of him.
No, I thought Chris's questions were good. How do we get there? Or the fact that, we can set and maybe want to aspire to get to that 10 million. But the question is, Chris, is how do we get there? I don't see a path on how we get to a $10 million free cash budget. I just don't see it, only because there's too many variables, unpredictables. I just don't see it. And the fact is that our budgets are really tight. God forbid if the state ever did renege on any other current. We'll be back to where we were looking at deficits and cutting more. Our way out, as I saw it, was the override. And when the town didn't vote for the override, the writing was on the wall. And I think the writing is still on the wall. We're still not out of the woods. And I think that needs to be made very clear to everyone.
Yeah,
We're not out.
I'm not suggesting that we cut this budget to fund reserves, but what I am suggesting is that the somewhat voluntary nature of some school departments to return money that isn't spent the way it was originally appropriated, or the way it was originally budgeted, meaning like from a rate perspective, like we didn't spend as much money on health insurance as we thought we were going to. We didn't spend as much money on people. Maybe a bunch of teachers quit at the end of the school year, and a few aren't replaced. I just think it's incumbent upon the town to recoup that money and not just assume that it's gonna, on a year. We look at these budgets and it's always this year's budget compared to last year's budget. We never look at them this next year's budget versus this year's actuals or a forecast for this year. Right? So it's always like budget versus budget without ever a reconciliation of what actually got spent compared to the subsequent year's budget. So. And I get that can be a challenge, and that would require people and technology and whatever to be able to forecast that accurately. We don't have it, but we do need to kind of boost the rainy day fund, right? And there's not a clear path to me to even start to recoup that money even in small batches. It's really just kind of voluntary for a department to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm not going to spend this. I'm going to give it back.
And that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it is difficult because over the years, as a coping mechanism, we've had to shave off, expense budgets. So we've been, dipping into those margins, and when you combine that with the fact that the costs are rising, like we were able to kind of do that over the years when inflation was low, costs weren't really increasing, interest rates were good, but now, it's kind of a double hit.
Thank you. Be done.
And the other thing too, is just the state aid, the increase in state aid, 2.88%, the second largest revenue category. Local receipts, yeah, 6.34%. That's good, but they're only like $7.6 million out of, $100 million. So that's really what makes it so difficult. And it's hard because, the burden ends up on the taxpayers.
Can I comment, ask a few questions?
No. Anybody else? I'm kidding, Mike. Go ahead.
So looking through the presentation here, I try to pull things together mentally as a narrative. What I'm seeing here is, in many senses, I'll use the word delightful. Seeing that the GIC number is what was it, 1.6% less than what was predicted. I mean, that right there is huge. And seeing that a number of our estimates are coming in where we're to maintain level services, we're not requiring quite as much as anticipated. Again, that's amazing. I'm also seeing, this is how it seems to me. I really need to be corrected if this is incorrect. There was the error last year in the school committee accounting that had whatever the number was, that we essentially discovered this year. I'm understanding that to have been the prime source of the substantial reduction in their budget this year. To me, combined with the sort of unexpected good news, the other stuff, that I don't want to use this word, but fundamentally that found money, and those unexpected benefits are what is allowing us to come at this first pass with the balanced budget. Had either of those things not been true, we would be looking at reduced services. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, because we would still have a $1.4 million deficit to contend with.
Yep.
Right. And so, I mean, the story is, but for some manna from heaven, as it were, we'd be in the disaster scenario that was predicted. In essence, what we've discovered is we've delayed the. Again, I'm trying to choose my words, but I'm just failing tonight. But for that, we would be in the disaster that we feared. So I don't want to say it's good that there was an error made with the accounting, but it's good in that we don't have the crisis. I would suspect we're going to face that same crisis next year. The pattern overall has remained identical. Flat state aid, apparently diminishing at Chapter 70 aid, and status quo in terms of process for property tax revenues. So this is encouraging. I'm excited we're at this point. I'm excited that our new town manager is not walking into insanity, but it's as good as this looks. I've actually, the reaction that I'm having is, oh my goodness, this actually, we're saying, oh, aren't we wonderful? We don't have to fire a whole bunch more people. And that's always, well, I guess I'm just pontificating at this point, so I'll shut up before I irritate Patrick too much.
That's my job. That's what I do. How dare you? No,
So
good question.
anyway,
That's what I
thank you
meant,
guys for putting
Mike.
this together. I think this is great stuff. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to talk over you.
That's what I meant. Like we underspent the budget, the school committee budget, because we didn't need to spend it all, and we're not fully recouping that, right? We're not actually reducing. We're reducing school budget versus school budget. We're not reducing school actual versus school budget, right? In fact, the school budget's going up from fiscal 26 to fiscal 27.
Right. But it's not hitting the town's general fund as directly because, well, it turns out they had, again, whatever the number was, $1.5 million accidentally squirreled away. Yeah, it's.
I don't know if squirreled away is the term we want to go with.
Yeah, I told you I'm doing a really
mislabeled.
bad job.
Let's say we'll say it's mislabeled, right?
Yeah,
I think
which
as uncharitable as found money can be to certain audiences, I think found money is the case in this scenario. There was a miscalculation that we ended up with a better number than we originally thought. It's not bad.
Yeah. No, and let me be clear for those listening that's not to cast aspersion. There was an error made, and I'm just doing a poor job of choosing my words tonight. Please forgive me for that. Chris, kind of some of what you were getting at, and I think that's important beyond the scope of what we want to talk about tonight, or we'll be here all night, maybe for the budget subcommittee. But there does remain that need, as you're pointing out, Chris, to continue looking toward the future. There's going to have to be a solution to this somehow. None of us wants perpetual overrides, but I'm also a fan of having functioning town services. And the path we're on remains problematic. I'd rather not be pointing that out during what is, honestly, guys, it's a very encouraging report. And again, thank you for putting it together. But we still got the same fundamental underlying crises that we've had. So again, I'll go back to being quiet. Just had to get that out.
You're right. You know, the underlying issues are still there, and they will be there. Our revenue growth is, you know, it's really limited. Even if you look at just property taxes without looking at the amount that increased for the debt exclusion, because that's going to go right to debt. So your discretionary increase in your tax levy that we're predicting is a $2.6 million increase. You know, it's 3.69%. You know, these are just really low percentages, and you know, even with modest growth in your town operating budgets, when you have you know, your fixed costs that are going up at a much higher rate, that's just taking away from your ability to fund your operating budgets.
Yeah.
So, and that's not going to go away.
Absolutely.
I had a question on that levy. Can we go to that slide again? By the way, I want to echo Mike's statements. This has been really
Which one are you looking
positive. What was that?
Which slide are you looking for?
The slide that was talked about the levy increasing. And I just wanted to just echo Mike's thing that this is I think this is great. It's a really great presentation, and it's as a new person to the financial committee, it's really nice to see that we have a balanced budget. But raising the levy, was going to be on the it's one of our proposals that we're going to be voting on.
Oh, okay, the override.
Oh, the override.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt with a question at first night. Look at this.
You asking
bold.
for the
It's bold. Maybe it's too bold.
No, it's awesome. There's no dumb questions, only dumb people, and Mike takes that role on our committee, so you go right ahead.
Oh no. Well, I might be there with them. So I mean, my question is does this ballot question raise the town's levy limit permanently?
Yes.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if we raised it, you referenced a number of how much it would generate in revenue next year, right? What was it, 2.8 or something?
Yeah, like are you saying if both questions passed?
Yeah, so if we
Yeah.
raise the limit, is that allowable for the town to raise next year and the year after that and the year after that permanently and forever have give the town freedom to raise the levy that much that we're voting for? Is that going to be a permanent thing where the town is able to raise that levy every year?
It
It's
just
not like
gets built into the base.
right.
So,
I
if
think I
it,
understand your question. It's not that we don't vote on it and then they get the ability to add another 2.8 this year and next year. It's that the overall levy goes up the same way that every year Proposition 2.5 lets us go up 2.5%. This adds that money to the overall levy itself. So next year, the 2.5% includes this number in its overall calculation, but we've also covered for this number in that raise.
Okay, but we're not voting to allow the town to raise taxes every year, carte blanche.
Not without a
Like,
finance committee salary. That's for darn sure. I'll tell you that much right now.
yeah, I mean, it
No,
won't go up another
it's not that.
2
okay,
million, but that 2 million, so if you're gonna increase your levy by 2 million, so say you got, $1 million levy and you're gonna increase it by 1 million, so now your levy's 2 million. Well, the next year, your levy starts at 2 million, but it's not gonna be, you're gonna add another million to that.
that was my question. So
Yeah.
my question was when we go to like let's say we pass it, it's not allowing the town to raise it by that much every single year.
Right,
Correct.
no,
Okay.
And so, Matt, this kind of question is exactly what we want because you're thinking it, and there's no one watching this right now, let's be fair, but like there could be dozens of people that watch this later on ECAT or have the same question when they're going through the process of thinking about the override or going to town meeting, etc. And these are the types of things that if you're not an expert and you haven't been, on town committees for years and years, this is stuff that is not readily available to the average taxpayer. So it's a fantastic question. It's the reason why those types of questions should always be asked because we are sitting here in this position of we're going to ask questions that might seem odd or strange to people that are in that mix. But if we ask that question here, then someone else is not asking that question later, and that obviously helps the overall education of the town. So great question, far better than the rest of you. How dare the rest of you not ask such good questions as our new member?
So Matt, and I'm actually saying this here in this context and not saying just call us afterwards, but there are nuances to how taxation works that I didn't transparently bother to learn until like 2 years ago. I thought I knew it, but I didn't. So definitely keep asking those questions. But I'll say that the simple way to think about it is the town each year has a tax levy. That's based on what we raised last year. We are allowed by law for whoever the town administrator is and through that process and through the select board able to say increase that total dollar value by 2.5%. And we're limited. That's all we can raise it by. But you can also add to that, and this is where everybody gets a little bit confused, new stuff. So somebody came in and built a house. A company came in and developed some land and what have you. So they change the value, the underlying value of the property, right? And so they can then add that in addition to the 2%. If we want to go beyond that at all, if we say we need more revenue as a community in order to deliver the services we want to deliver, that we feel we need to deliver, but we need more dollars, then we're required by law to go to the voters and say, can we have permission to increase the tax levy by an explicit amount? In this case, looking at this slide, one of the options is 1.4 million, the other one's for 700K, right? And if you increase it 700K, then it is therefore that base levy that grows 2.5% a year has that 700K or that 1.4 million added to it. And so each subsequent year it'll grow. And so one of the reasons you see a lot of growth in communities, and I know there's some people in Easton that are not big fans of growth. I think that's true everywhere. But one of the reasons why you see that growth is because it's one of the only ways to increase the tax levy more than 2.5%. And as a citizen of these fine United States of ours, I'm sure you've noticed costs have increased over the past few years a bit more than 2.5% per year. And so you can see why there is that tension, that pressure built into the system. So I don't know if that kind of clarifies
does
how
help.
it goes up. And hopefully Sean and Wendy will smack me upside the head if I said anything wrong there. So
I just want to
Yeah.
say that was very, very FinCom chair representational
not happening.
education you
It's
just did, Mike.
not
I just
happening. No.
think it's
I need
really
to-
impressive how you
Mike, I
stepped up.
need to take you on the road with me. There are several communities need this kind of education. Jeez.
Please take him on the road with you. Please, God. Great point, Mike. This has been very engaging. Are there any other thoughts or questions? I guess I have one, which is, you'd think I know what I'm doing after 9 years, but essentially, this is educational, but we're not voting on Article 6 because the final numbers are not in. Same for Article 7. This is going to be obviously in the future post-budget presentation time, which is April 8th, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to make sure people knew that we're not actually taking a vote on this. This is your first passive educational for this, that we will then obviously have supplemental information for the wider conversation on the joint meeting on the 8th.
Yeah. And and on the website, you know, under that, you know, easton.ma.us/override, that gives more information on the override. It even gives a further breakdown of like the 1,415,000 for public safety, how that breaks down. Public Works is pretty straightforward, 500 roads, 200 for 2 special equipment operators, but it also gives the estimated tax impact too, based on the median single family, you know, based on like metrics from like this year's tax levy. That kind of impact would be $150.58 a year, for the 1,415,000 for public safety, which is $37.65 a quarter, $12.55 a month. Public Works, $82.13 a year, $20.53 a quarter, or $6.84 a month, would be how it breaks down. And that's based on median single family. That value is $684,450.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other thoughts, questions, or points of discussion on the current budget change memorandum? Alrighty. Looking through the rest of the articles tonight, I don't know outside of, 8 is rescinding borrowing authorizations, which has nothing currently in it. I wasn't sure if you had anything additional to add there.
No, I'm just gonna wait until that's posted in a later draft of the warrant. There's always some kind of debt that needs to be rescinded.
Right.
If you don't spend all of the money that you authorized in a debt issue, you need to rescind it. Otherwise, it just stays on the books. It's money you haven't borrowed. It's not cash that you have. It's just an authorization that's out there. It's just housekeeping.
Yep. So the only other pieces that I mean, looking through the rest of them, right? There's the stormwater utility bylaw, which has the recent draft. I don't know if that's in final stages for a vote. Yeah, I didn't think so.
They're going to be coming to the
Yeah.
select board in the next, likely at the April 6th meeting, and we'll, and then so we'll have for the next go around when you guys meet again, we'll have something more. There.
Yeah.
And then the other pieces. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Wendy.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you could vote on the CPA articles, but I think you're getting to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I tend to hesitate to vote on the CPA. Well, some of them are relatively straightforward, but I often try to grab a CPA person for the second one. And seeing as there's a few on here that we've been talking about via whether or not there's recommendations or not, and there's back and forth conversations about them, I figured I'd hold those anyway because we're gonna have, what is it? We've only gone through a few here, 4? So we'll have like 13 left, I think, after. So I figured I'd have a CPA person come, or 15 left. And then the only other pieces are, I know that there's a citizen's position for 19 and a zoning amendment for 18. Those edits, again, I'm assuming those are still not finalized and not ready
Those
for
are
prime
both.
time.
Those are both citizens petitions, or all 4 of those articles. 16.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
19. Yeah.
So are those in those were? I mean, I read through them, but I was like, I have questions. So I wasn't sure if that was something that would be, so we're starting at 16 on.
Yep.
Is that something you guys would be familiar enough to cover tonight, or should we have someone from the planning and zoning or
I
the like?
can share with you what I asked the planning director to share some details on them, so you can decide whether you want to take action or not. That's up to you. But for 16 and 17, both of those went for their public hearing. Since it's a zoning article, they had to go to the planning and zoning board for a public hearing before being on the town meeting warrant. One of the threshold tests that I know that Arthur and I had talked about, and Patrick as well, is that there are threshold tests. And when a citizen petition comes before the select board for inclusion on the town meeting warrant, if it is not plainly illegal, in which this case it is not, it is flawed, but it is not plainly illegal, it can move forward to be on the warrant whether or not the select board votes to include it. So in this case, it went through the regular process where the planning and zoning board held their hearing. They held that on the 17th, so just last week, and they voted on Article 16 5-0 to not recommend the child care and residential districts article. Article 17, about a notification for site plan review and uses under Section 3. The planning and zoning board voted 3-2 to also not recommend that article.
So the only question I have is that if the select board, I guess it's a citizen's petition, does the select board's recommendation or vote in any way alter whether or not it's going to be included on the warrant for the town meeting? Okay, so it's still something we will vote on regardless.
You can, and the select board will as well, likely, but they don't have the ability to disinclude it unless it was
right. That's what I want to make sure.
Illegal, yeah.
Okay. So I will table those until I'll reach out to planning and zoning and see if I can get someone to attend as same as CPC or CPA to say like, hey, let's make sure we have specific subject matter experts to give us a deeper understanding of these pieces. And then everything else is just budgetary stuff, which we could probably run through relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. So with that, I think we've done everything we need for the warrant articles tonight. So we'll put a pin in the others. We went through just the first 4. And then we'll move to the other pieces on our charter. So Sean and Wendy, you guys are free to go. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you for the presentation. Really, really great time. Unless anyone has any other questions.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate, and I understand why this may not be practical, but at the risk of blowing our town council budget, I think 16, 17, 18, and 19 have some potential legal pitfalls. This is what Sean and I were discussing. Obviously, I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the group, and I know we've talked about this. Does it make sense to have the town council on to kind of talk through of their position on, just because? So like, just to give just to put on the record and just to give an idea of just to let everybody know kind of like what Sean and I were talking about. My concern. So there's this kind of all stems from some issues, and we don't have to get into like particulars. I'm sure we'll go over that at the next meeting, but it implicates chapter 40A of is it chapter or section 40A? A bylaw in the Massachusetts general laws that basically gives childcare and other educational places basically a right to be present and be exempted from zoning. And there's like a lot. There's been litigation on this, and issues come up, which leads to this petition. And I think the concerns of the planning board which is a concern that I also share, is the potential, encumbrance that this warrant article kind of potentially puts on a by right usage of land. So that's why the only reason why town council I think would make sense, because I mean, I could talk about it, but I don't actually know. I know a little bit, but the town council probably knows a lot more than I do.
Is there any issue with I've never brought town council to a FinCom meeting. I don't think there's any issue with that, but
It's atypical, but Patrick, maybe you and I can talk offline and we can
Yeah.
coordinate
We can
that.
connect and see how to best, because I agree with Arthur. Like, if there's, which is the reason why I'm like, if there are considerations to be had with that are deeper than just sort of the financial impact, then I definitely want some other subject matter experts around. So
Yeah, I mean,
good call,
I think my
Arthur.
concern. Yeah, I think my concern is like I think facially there is no financial impact. It's all borne by the landowner. If this gets challenged and the town gets roped into litigation, that becomes a major financial problem, and that's why I think town council makes sense on the call.
Agreed. Appreciate it. All right, Sean, Wendy, you are free. I appreciate your time. We should pretty much wrap up pretty quickly after this. So thank you both. We'll see you guys on the next round of this and in person on the 8th.
Thank you. The next round too, we'll probably have a few reserve fund transfer requests to propose. We had some overlap between when Mike Deltano retired and hiring John Souza. So to be some money for IT. Also in the collector treasurer's office with the retirement of Linda Hawks and you know, having some staff. So just wanted to let you know that was on the horizon.
Sounds good. We're always here. We're always judging. So we're ready to go.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Good job.
Thank you.
Alrighty. As the adults leave the room, and it's back to the asylum members. So we'll come back to warrant article stuff. The second item on our list is the meeting minutes. We have 4 of them. I'm sure you are all very, very studious people and studied them all drastically and deeply. Is it 4 or 5? Wait a minute. No, it's 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We can vote them in a bulk of someone can make a motion to approve all. Wait. Stop. Hold up. Unless there's anybody that has any changes. So all of you who read it very well and make sure you're quoted correctly, you all know where the changes need to go, correct?
I wasn't even on the committee for one of them.
Seeing none.
I don't think there's any corrections.
I'll take the previous ran over me motion and second, please.
First, Jenkins will second.
Jenkins will second.
Diaz.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Feats.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Harriman.
Yes.
I'm a yes, and Percio's a yes. So that's meeting minutes. Those will be submitted. We did the budget and fiscal memo. So the only piece left is committee member and public comments. Shireen, you said you had something you wanted to share. I will open the floor up. If once Shireen's done, if anybody else has anything, feel free. If not, we will move to our favorite motion of the night.
So I wanted to not really apologize, but I missed a couple of meetings. I've been out of circulation for a bit. My dad passed last December, and my mom's been out of sort for a few months, and so I'm now back in circulation. And so I didn't want you all to think that I had been neglecting my civic duty intentionally. I needed to be purposely absent. So just wanted to offer that out to the group. So thank you for your patience with me during that funky time.
Sure, I swear to God, I thought you were
that
going to
everybody will agree with me on this. You have nothing to apologize for, and
not at all.
Agreed.
So sorry for
condolences for your
all the condolences.
all our love and the best. I'm just glad you're able to come back.
Thank
and
you.
be chair in a short order. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if I leave at the completion of my term and there's no chair, then you get it automatically. That's the only thing I wanted to share, just as FYI. Since the election is 4/28 and the town meeting is May 18th, I am not running for re-election. Everyone cry. With that, I will no longer be in seat as of 4/28. So once the election goes through, my term is out, and thus there is no current sitting chair. So default standard of who will be chair will go to Shireen. Sherry, I'm going to call you Sherry because you put it on there earlier. I'll give you a timeline to make sure you understand how to submit the stuff that I do is not dramatically difficult, but like submitting the meeting requests and asking for the Zooms and things like that. I'll give you all the breakdown for that. But this is my time to be like, hey, there's a chair and a vice chair. So those of you who are civically minded, this is your time to think about potentially stepping into that position. Again, it's not dramatically more. You just have to be an idiot and stand at the front and blather on like I do. You could blather less. Totally fine. And then you get to be the cool person that sits at town meeting. Matt, you have not experienced this yet, but the coolest part of finance committee is the guy or girl at the end, the chair, gets to sit at the end, and there's all this discussion and talking and deep consideration about all these different articles, and then they look at us and they go, finance committee, and I turn my mic on, I go, recommend, and then we just move on to the next thing. It's really it's intense. It's a rush. I'll say. It's a rush. I can't get over it. I'm gonna miss it. No, I'm not. So with that, that's it for tonight.
Motion to
Matt,
adjourn to Petro.
Hold on, Matt. Do you have any other questions that you have? Shh. Do you have any other questions before we adjourn about tonight or anything like that? If you do have deeper questions you don't want to admit online, totally fine. You can ping me after. But is there anything in the context of rules of order or anything that we've done tonight that you want to cover before we adjourn?
No, I am super happy to be here, and this has been exceeded all my expectations. So thank you for the warm welcome and the forum. This is incredible.
This is what we do, man. This is the fun times. We are the fun committee. I've said it before. I will say it again to the end of times. We are the fun committee. All the other committees are like, oh, doom, gloom. And we're like, guys, let's talk about finance. Let's go. With that, Mike, did you have something you just said? I could have sworn.
Motion to adjourn to Petro.
Second, Jenkins.
Diaz.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Arthur.
What if I said no?
You can say no. Ask Mike about that. It's actually hilarious. He did that once.
No, it was an abstention.
Yes. Whatever. You screwed it up. You're a yes. DePietro?
Yes.
Olson?
Olson, yes.
Barrowman?
Yes.
I'm a yes. And Percio? We are done, y'all. Thank you so much for the time. I will put time on your calendar for the next one of these or the next 1.5 of these. Plus, do not forget, as we said tonight, there is the joint budget meeting on April 8th. Many of you have already accepted that. Matt, I will send you that information as well. But yes, thank you all for your time tonight, and we'll see you all out there soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a good evening.